to UnStuck Worldwide Grief Café, our very fourth episode. I am super excited about today's episode and all that we've done so far with Grief Cafe. So as Father's Day is approaching, we want to celebrate fathers. We want to celebrate their life, their love, their laughter, their legacy that they left us. In Grief Cafe, it's not also just about death, it's also about life. We also want to give flowers to those who are still living. And today we want to honor dads. And we want to honor dads for their sacrifices, for their love. And I know for a lot of people are coming to Father's Day and they're going to be celebrating their dads. But then on Father's Day also, a lot of people are going to be mourning. A lot of people are going to be grief-stricken and heartbroken during this season. So we want to have a real conversation about celebrating the life, the love, and their legacy. But we also want to celebrate and give space to those who are grieving during this time too. So if during this time you are grieving, we want to send you so much love. During this time, we want to send you prayers because it's not always about celebrating. It's also about acknowledging the heartbreak that people are going through as well. And also being able to highlight really important conversations around Father's Day and grief and love and celebrating so we can hold both the joy and the pain. A lot of times fathers are unsung heroes. You see on Mother's Day, a lot of times when we go to church, you see the church packed up with a lot of people celebrating their moms. And a lot of times dads, they get the short end of the stick. And not to say that mothers don't deserve all of the accolades, but fathers, there's something uniquely special about dads. And, you know, even biblically, dads are the cornerstone of families. Fathers and men are a reflection of God. They are the anchors of our families, their presence, their sense of safety, and how they show up for us really truly represents the heart of God. And so today we want to really celebrate fathers, and we want to celebrate the unsung heroes, and it's all about dads. So today we're going to celebrate my first guest, his dad, David Patterson, who also happens to be my uncle, and with a little glimmer of my dad in there as well. So welcome today's episode to my dad with love, your son Stephen, honoring the life, love, and legacy of David Patterson. So before we get started, I always want to give a brief introduction about what is Grief Cafe. Grief Cafe is a sacred space. It's a relaxed atmosphere where we share the life, love, laughter, and legacy of those who have transitioned on. But also, it's about celebrating those who are still living and giving them flowers as well. It's a great conversation over a cup of coffee, a tasty treat, a favorite drink. It's whatever you bring to the table. That's how we commune and come together to celebrate love. Here at Grief Cafe, we celebrate life and we honor the life of those who have transitioned and also those that are still living. We also know that grief isn't just about death. Grief is the 1,000 losses that we go through on a daily basis. It's loss, it's change, it's transition, it's love, it's finding meaning and becoming in the midst of it all. I am Keyshawn Hill Adamson. I am a certified grief coach, educator, grief movement guide, grief and loss public speaker. I am the author of My Love Letters to the Grieving, You Are Not Alone, and I'm also the host of UnStuck Worldwide Grief Café. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that you're here with us. Before we get started, I want to allow our audience to be trauma informed. Grief can bring up a lot of heightened emotions. Sometimes it could feel really heavy. And I want you to know I am not a licensed medical professional. This conversation is for encouragement and educational purposes only. If at any point you become overwhelmed and you need to pause or step away, please do so and take care of yourself. Your self-care matters to us. If you are feeling thoughts of self-harm, please call 911 or 988 for immediate assistance. You matter, your life matters, and your self-care matters. So now, I have the very special privilege of introducing a very special guest to me. His name is Stephen Patterson. He is a 2013 graduate of Rochester Institute of Technology. He holds a bachelor's degree in mass media and communications and journalism. He currently serves as deputy director and director of philanthropy for Intact America, Inc. He is a proud girl dad. He is a father of 2 beautiful daughters. And on a personal note, he is my cousin. He is a man with a great heart. He is a proud dad. He is a great friend. He is so many different things to so many different people. And most importantly, he's a son. So we want to honor that. And today we'll be sharing about his dad, David Patterson, honoring his life, love, and legacy. So please help me to welcome my fourth guest, Stephen Patterson. Yay!
That was great. I need that intro recorded for myself.
I know, you got to get the drums out.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. So on Grief Cafe, we always come with a tasty treat, a favorite drink. So what are you bringing to the table today?
So I have this mug that I like to drink out of here. I got this from a Vermont trip, and it's just always had the right amount of room for my coffee that I need. But today I have some apple juice in there today because of my dad. That was his favorite juice to drink. And then I have a sandwich here nearby too that I might or might not dive into, but I don't want to get food all over my beard. So we'll see how it goes, but it's on standby in case I get hungry. So
that'll be an interesting episode. You have a little tomato, a little mayo, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, so in Grief Cafe, one of the things that are really important to me is saying our loved one's name. What happens in grief a lot is people don't ever want to say their name because they always think that people are going to get upset. They don't want to make them cry. They don't want to spring up all the emotions. But what we often don't realize is that a lot of times we want people to say their name. We want people to not forget their importance to us and their importance to the world and how they have showed up in life. So we want to celebrate their name. So I'm going to ask you, please introduce to the world your loved one's name.
David Lee Patterson.
Amen. David Lee Patterson. Awesome. And to me, he's Uncle David. Yay. So tell me a little bit about David Patterson. And what do you call him? What do you call him? Dad, daddy?
I call him dad more often than anything else. And then I think he would most often call me Stevie with a VIE. So he was, a son, a brother, uncle to many. And, he was a lot of people's favorite coworkers at his jobs that he worked at. He was, someone his friends relied on whenever they needed help. He had a lot of different proficiencies and know-how about, how to fix things and handyman work. And he had a lot of specialties and degrees, credentials from, be it from cars, automotive, or HVAC. So whenever somebody needed something, everybody knew to call my dad. And he would come over, he'd fix their TV, fix their computer, fix their car, fix their windshield, fix whatever needed fixing. So he was just someone that always tried to look out for those. And especially, in our church, we had very close-knit family with the church and, just giving back wherever he had the opportunity to.
One thing I remember about your dad is he was always over the house and he was always installing some type of complicated DVD. No, it wasn't even DVD. It was the VHS. It was the VR tape. My dad would Pete. So my dad, Pete, and David are brothers. And so he would always buy my mom this fancy VCR that we can never work. And then Uncle David would have to come over and he's always with the TV, and we had those big box TVs back in the day. And he would come over, like anything in the house. He was like, David's coming over today, so we're going to put this thing together. So he was known. He's super smart and to be able to fix anything. Like, that's what he was known for.
Definitely. He tried his best to get me to learn and watch, but I didn't always have the patience. So don't ask me or call me to fix stuff for you to Google.
So what Pete would do with me is he would wake me up and he's like, come out here and learn how to change a tire. So it was like, I'd be getting up out of the bed, like he'd be in the house fixing stuff and I was like, that's why we hired AAA. Like, I don't need to know how to do that. But let me tell you, when he passed, I had to learn how to do that because he was the one I would call, and no matter where I'd find myself, he'd be on that highway. If I'm stuck on a highway, he'd show up right behind me. So, but when he passed, I had to learn, like, those are the skills. Like, all that time he would be trying to teach me something I could care less about. But it was like, he was right. So tell me what made your dad, he was everybody's go-to man. He was everybody's favorite person that people would go to for advice. What else made him unique? What made him unique to you?
I guess for me, seeing how other peers or just friends growing up, how their relationships with their fathers may be non-existent or just not what they desired. And I just never really had any kind of awkwardness or uneasiness or difficulties with my dad, and it was really comfortable, a very comfortable relationship, and we could hang out together, we can do things together, we can watch movies together, and just being able to have someone to do that with, that you lived with and was your parent was great.
A lot of times with dads, too many times, and I really get tired of this, with dads, like I said, they're unsung heroes. Like, a lot of times you'll hear about, my dad didn't do this, my dad wasn't around, my dad this, and you hear that society a lot. makes it seem like there are no great fathers out there. And there are a ton of great dads, like your dad. And I'm not saying perfect, like these people don't always show up perfect. They, my dad was not perfect. However, these men come with a really great heart and really a heart to take care of their family and a heart to, want to pour into their kids. And so it's really important that we really celebrate fathers, especially during this time where, men get beat up on a lot. And so we want to celebrate, the great things that they're doing. What makes your dad unforgettable?
I think he was just kind of a little bit of everything. And that always kind of stuck out to me. He could, be funny, he could be serious, he can, get, very like loving, and then also, spiritual, and, just seeing all the different sides of his personality and spirituality. I think, it was kind of not a master, but just he had a little bit of every little kind of personality you could think of, every kind of little nuance that he had. He was just an amalgamation of all those different things. And, seeing someone to be so, loved by everyone and being able to be different things to different people just left a great impression on me.
Wow. What was important to him?
Everything. Church, family, providing, friends, those are the things that he spent his time with doing or supporting. So he, took his family wherever, he took his church wherever, he took his, spirit everywhere. And being able to manage and balance and do those things, as a father, I hadn't seen it done until he, displayed and showed me how that's meant to be. So obviously he's not here anymore, but from the experiences and from the things that I've witnessed over time and the stories of family and friends, I feel like he's left a lot to be modeled after.
One thing I remember about your dad is, and anytime he came over the house, and he came over the house a lot because he was close with his brother, and he would always come and check on me. That was like, he was involved with the family. Like even after my dad had passed, he was involved. Like he made sure he checked on me, he checked on my mom, anything we've ever had with Aunt Daryl, your mom, and the family, like it was still like a bridge. And he still was involved. Like my daughter's earliest birthdays, at my wedding, at my first daughter's baby shower, you name it. Like I can't think about a time when I look back over my life, he wasn't at the house with my dad, and my dad wasn't going to visit your dad. And he would always come in the room, and he would always take interest in what I was doing. He always wanted to know, what are you studying in school? We spent a lot of time. I would come and have my computer, and he was curious. He wanted to know about what was happening in school, what I was learning, what courses I was taking, and we would talk for hours. And I think that's the consensus. He was just an all-around gentle giant of a man. And he was the quiet storm to my dad, because my dad they were polar opposite. So can you name a funny or unforgettable moment with your dad? Something that stands out.
I think for me, so my dad was a sprinter in high school and ran it in college as well. So I don't know if I was always interested in running too, or if just, hearing his many millions of stories about how fast he was or whatever kind of laid an impression on me. But, I thought I was quick when I was like a young guy. I'm probably like 6-7 years old at the time. And I thought I was like the fastest kid in the universe. Could nobody outrun me, this and that. And then my dad's like, you're not that fast. You think you're slow. I'll beat you out. I'm like, no way. So we go outside and he's like, all right. So he's like, I'll give you a head start. So I was like, I don't need no head start. And like, again, 6 or 7 years old at the time, talking all the garbage. And I was like, I'll beat you. I don't even have my shoes tied. I'm like, man, this will be over quick. And then before I blinked, he was already down the block. And I was like, it was like a very humbling moment. And he was like, I need to even stretch. And I was like, cool. So now, me being closer to his age now than at that time that I am now, I think that was really impressive. And, it humbled me, but it was funny at the time because I just didn't believe what just happened. So that's definitely something that sticks out in my mind.
Because even, I think when I had invited you all to something a few years back, and he was still connected with his track buddies. Like he was still he was like, I can't because I have this, thing I'm going to with my track buddies. And so he was known, like that was his thing.
Definitely. And they all keep in touch and they all check in every once in a while to see how we're doing. So since he passed, so that's just been like another extension of, his friendships and, the bonds that he created over time.
So in Grief Cafe, a lot of times I like to talk about grief terms because sometimes we're never taught like grief literacy. No one ever teaches us that the grief that we experience has names. And when you lose monumental people in your life, it's not just the permanence of the loss that we experience. Like, we no longer are able to connect with them because they have transitioned on. But there's so many different types of grief that we go through. I know with my dad, and similarly with your dad, they died suddenly. That's called traumatic grief. It's the shock of it. It's when loss happens suddenly, unexpectedly, violently, or in a way that deeply shapes us emotionally and mentally. And so you're not just grieving the person, you're grieving what happened. We talk a lot about in Grief Cafe, like anticipated trajectory. It's the future you thought you were going to have with them, the plans, the hopes, the dreams, the many different things that you've imagined. And a lot of times what comes with that are the thousands of secondary losses. Grief is not just about death, a physical death. It's also about the 1,000 losses that we go through on a daily basis. And grief looks different for everybody. So now that your father has transitioned, what has grief looked like for you?
Definitely. So I think now it's a little bit different than initially. So when he passed, it was right before my wedding. So I wasn't a dad yet. So, obviously just losing him as an installation in the family, weighed on all of us. But, not having the living blueprint of fatherhood and having someone to ask questions to, and, am I doing this right? Should I be doing something else? Or just, that kind of guidance is what, I think I'm missing out on now, and what I would have, liked to have for my kids as well, because, they don't know anything about their grandfather really, but, as they get older, we'll tell them about him. But, I was in a similar situation as they were now, where I didn't have any of my grandparents either. So grandfather on either side. So I never had that relationship of what a grandfather could be, or what they are meaningful, and having like another source of that kind of model. I didn't have that either. So now my kids are in that position. So I feel like I'm kind of managing fatherhood, and then also trying to find out what it means to be a grandfather, so that one day when I'm my kids grandfather to my kids I can still be a value to the family and a value. So understanding what it means to be a father to daughters, as something that he experienced first, and then I came along later from, my older sister. So having, again, that guidance and reference point, and someone to hear that, I think he would be, funny and honest with, his experiences and the things that he learned with raising us. So I think that's probably what I'm living in the most.
Yeah. And I think your story and my story, they parallel, because, you were preparing for a wedding. I was preparing for a wedding. I had, my daughter not long after I had gotten married. You've had your children not long after you've gotten married. We're both having to navigate, what does that look like when, the patriarch is not there to give the guidance and that sense of safety. Like, we take comfort in the fact that they are the strong tower in the house. And they're the pillar in the house, and they're someone that we can, go to and ask for advice, ask for wisdom, just to be able to have the support. And, that goes back to anticipated trajectory. We all have a plan on how we like to see things, and our parents are a part of that. And when that's disrupted, it's mind blowing. So what is the hardest part about your grief? And I know you mentioned the advice. What is the most, on a day-to-day basis, what's the hardest part for you?
Just not being able to hear his voice. So not being able to just say hi or check in, or, if something comes to mind, or that something he might have been interested in, I can't text it to him, can't call him about it. So just being available, again, kind of being a friend in a way, someone that shared, interests with me, just not having that presence and that person to connect with is pretty tough.
Yeah. I was doing some spring cleaning the other day, and, just making space in the house for new things. And I had Pete's, his tool. I did a whole post about it. His tool bags. He was like, he was the handy mandy fixing stuff always in the house. And, the sadness, and I'm having to choose. I was going through boxes and different things, and it's, to your point, the permanence. It's about not being able to pick up the phone. I found, his phone and all of these different things that, we hold on to, but it's the permanence. It's the not being able to, and a lot of times, what people don't understand with grief is that grief is an expression of love. So when you think of the word grief, what automatically comes to your mind?
Anguish, I would say, just loss or regrets.
Yeah. I remember feeling like I wanted to get in my car and I just wanted to drive. And I couldn't because
Right.
I had my mom. I didn't have any kids at the time, but I had my mom. And so I could not, and we got bills. So a lot of things that, with our emotions, it is the anger. It is and it doesn't even matter if they have passed like yesterday or years ago, the disbelief that this is the reality. For some people it's bargaining. Like, if I had did this, maybe if I had done this different, maybe I could have said this last thing, the would've, the could've, the should've. But the anger is, I was enraged. I was enraged. And they have things now where back in the day, like, I can't go outside and scream because then they call the cops on me. But that's really like, you want to just bellow. You really just want to bellow and just say some things. But now they have rage rooms, which is awesome. Because
I've done a couple of those.
You did.
I forget what the name of it, but it's kind of like you just get in a room and there's like old TVs and computer equipment or whatever. You can get a sledgehammer, you can go whack away, throw stuff wherever you want to, and people just donate like this unused materials. And you think it's kind of silly when you hear it, but then you try it and like you'd be amazed how relieved that you can feel sometimes.
Wow. So have you done that recently? Or
this was maybe like 4 years ago, maybe 5. It was an unexpected birthday gift from my now wife, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy this, I don't think I like it. But then once I was like in the room, and then you're just thinking about things that you're frustrated about, or that day, that week, or whatever it might have been, and you just kind of walk out. It's like almost like a feeling of like coming out of a sauna. You kind of do like the whew. It's like you just left it all in there for the day and kind of go back to being your normal self. So it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, I've never done it. I recommend it though, because it's like you got it, that anger. We have to find ways. I know I work with David Kessler, and he said he takes a bat and he goes to town on his bed. And you may hear the thumping, but that's another way. Some people do kickboxing. Some people do, like, they pound and they run and do all kind of things. So how do you take care of yourself in your grief?
So it's interesting. I won't say that I've kind of solved anything for myself. And I think just living in the moment is more helpful than most things, because when you start to reflect on the past, it can get a little triggering, or you just want things differently or envision things differently. But I think just helping others, understanding that grief, at least in my experience, has been it's like selfish, and it can feel isolating because you immediately, again, for myself, you don't want to be comforted, you don't want to be talked to, you just want to be left alone to process and to work through those things. And you feel like nobody really understands, or nobody is feeling the loss that you're feeling, or they don't understand the relationship or everything that's missing from your life now. So it can feel like you're on an island and you don't want anybody to come near your island. But in actuality, it's kind of the reverse, where if you find communities, or if you find groups of people that have shared those same losses for yourself, you'll find that it becomes easier to talk about. It becomes easier to unpackage things and to start to process and to put yourself in a better place than you are. I won't say forever, but for a day at a time has been an incredible thing to take value in it, to try. So that would be my recommendation. And also, in my work, I created a group counseling program for men that are going through trauma. And in my leadership of putting that program together, strangers are, sharing essentially things that they've been harboring and never told anyone about before. And, looking across the room and, seeing a head nod, or seeing someone say, that happened to me, or I understand that feeling, or, any kind of shared experiences can be incredibly helpful and nurturing and uplifting for those people. It's like, yes, something terrible happened, but someone else also went through that and they're okay, or they're finding a way through it. So it can be inspiring for some to kind of see someone else on the other side of it, or start to get to that point where they would like to be. So definitely try to find communities and find people that can help you talk about this in a way that doesn't leave you stuck.
I think that's beautiful. I think more workplaces need places like that to go. They need community. And I think a lot of times for men, I think people in general, society in general, they don't understand that men have emotions. They have feelings. It's like everyone looks at them, they're supposed to be macho, they're supposed to, behave a certain way. But even with my own husband, what I find with him is that there's not enough emotional intelligence for our men, and that they need emotional support. And a lot of times they're told to be stoic, to not show emotion. If you show emotion, that you're considered weak. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. For a man to be tapped into his emotions and to be sensitive is a beautiful attribute. And it's beautiful for the people in their lives. And so I think, that sounds like a lot of meaning making that you're doing, and being able to create a platform for people to come and speak, especially men, because they have the support groups, but I just don't, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the man, I just don't find that they get enough support. They get enough attention to what they're thinking and what they're feeling, especially their emotions. And so what made you come up with the idea to be able to create that, especially at work? What did you see the need
Well,
was?
unfortunately, with the community I serve with my organization, in the time that I've been working there, I just celebrated 10 years with the company last September. So in my time working in different roles and capacities and networking with our constituents, unfortunately, there's just been a number of suicides and people taking their own life. And I've seen that trend. And, one of the things, just talking to the parents or the partners, not knowing that they were upset, not knowing that they were suffering, only wishing that, they had more conversations about what was going on, or not understanding what they were feeling, because some people put on what they call a mask, where they have a facade of being okay or being well, and secretly suffering underneath that. So I think it's important just for men in general to have that safety in the environment to be able to freely share and to express themselves. And I feel like, to your point, it doesn't really, it's like, goes against our culture in America, at least, where especially for men and fathers of color, where they're not able to express themselves because it's seen as, like you said, weakness, or it's seen as not desirable trait for men to display. But how do you navigate that, and then also have children and not be able to be in tune with them at the same time? So I feel like it does more damage to most people and most fathers. And I think that's part of the reason why some people have difficult relationships with their fathers, because they weren't expressed and they were told not to express. And so now it's like a lot of frustration and years of might be inherited trauma or inherited pain that people are going through. And nobody knows, it's like chicken or egg of who's gonna help who, or who's gonna be there to restore, or end that cycle of not being able to express yourself or process those feelings or put names to those feelings. Because if you don't have those environments that are safe for you to do so, you're never going to make any progress.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful what you're doing, and congratulations on making 10 years. Thank you. Being able to just make an impact, especially for our young men and older men, wherever they find themselves on the spectrum. That's a beautiful thing, because your feelings matter, and your pain matters, and your pain needs to be seen. Because once we start to process what we're feeling, we become healed, and then the healing is contagious. So when we heal, we can help others heal as well. So what do you wish people understood about grief and losing a parent?
I think, again, the idea of the isolation or the pain being so unique, I think that's the thing that for me kind of stuck out. And I've lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of family members, and just different kinds of losses through time. But that's been the thing that's gotten through for me, is that someone out there understands, and someone out there wants to listen or to help. So I think for parents it can be really tough, because if you are really close with your mom or your dad, relationship is your own and unique, and you can't, it's irreplaceable. It's different than a friend, or different from a pet or something else. Like it leaves an impression on you. It makes up a part of your identity, and losing that person is difficult and hard. But I do think that from the other side, our family members are, our cheerleaders. They're, here rooting for us along the way. They're expressing themselves in things that we do or find, or, just those coincidences you can't explain sometimes. I think that, finding the pathway forward a day at a time, and relinquishing the idea of isolation and, frustration is the best thing that I can recommend.
Awesome. How do you make meaning in this season? Outside of what you're doing for work, how else do you make meaning for yourself?
In terms of Father's Day?
In terms of navigating this road of losing your dad and the now what?
For me, I think it's really my kids, wanting to do my best to kind of give them everything I can and to be there for them. And this is kind of like a, passing down of how I was raised and the traditions of the family, and just being there for them at every point that I can and doing everything that I can for them, I think is how I'm able to kind of make strides on my own and still processing, that loss of, I can't call him, I can't, speak to him on the phone, but what would he do in this situation, or what would he tell me not to do in this situation?
Yeah.
Just finding ways to connect, the good memories to what I'm trying to build and develop with my kids is how I find meaning.
Awesome. What makes you smile when you think about your dad?
There's a lot. I think his dry jokes sometimes, or his little corny jokes he would make, or
Can you tell us a corny joke?
I don't know if I could speak to one specifically, but just like he had like one-liners and little like sound effects that he would do and stuff like that. But his older sister, my aunt, she often, would tell stories about him from young, or growing up on the farm, and how you chase after animals and all this kind of stuff. So there's stuff, a little bit everywhere I go, something will remind me of something he did, or someone will have a story I haven't heard. So it's just a little bit of everything, it could be. So I got this, you can see this little pin here of him on a shirt here. So my wife had these made for our wedding, so he was there at the wedding. So little things like this, just, the positive energy and, reminders of him. So
one thing that I remember about and shout out to Aunt Pat and the Patterson family, he would always tell me, is when they were raised on the farm, is he would go out to the field and he would take one of the watermelons and he would plug a hole in it, eat the watermelon, plug the hole back, plug it back in, and leave it out there. The entire watermelon would be hollow on the inside. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, there are stories for days about that farm life. And I always appreciate going to see Aunt Pat with the chickens. So, and I have no idea. And I'm like, well, I had all kind of crazy questions. And I'm like, well, this and that with the chickens. And how do they make other chickens? And, all the different farm life. And she'll school me about that whole farm life. So that was something that was always very funny. What do you want the world to know about David Patterson? Like, how do you want him to be remembered?
I mean, frankly, I think everybody's already doing that now for, the people that knew him and loved him. I think, just being a good person, a good Christian, a good father, a good friend, good husband to, everyone around you, and, making sure that you're intentional with your time and with the people that you spend it with, and sharing that with, the people that are close to you, and at home, at church, and everywhere that you go in life. Just being the best version of yourself and the best version of yourself to everyone else around you and the people that care about you.
I think that's the most important thing. Like, do the things that would make them proud, and just be upstanding. Have an excellent spirit about everything that you're doing and the things that they taught you, to do those things and do it well. It's not easy to be able to do that a lot, especially when you're in grief. It takes some time to kind of find your way there. But that's been the thing for me, which is why I wrote the book that I wrote, is about redeeming the time, so that, every moment that I live, that it's meaningful, and that I'm sowing good seeds into other people, and I'm fulfilling the call and the purpose of God on my life, for your life. And I think for a lot of people, it's about transitioning through the different stages of grief, and being at the different stages all at the same time or at different times, and being able to come to a place where it's like, okay, what do I do now with what I'm feeling? What are you most grateful for today?
Grateful for family. Grateful to be on your platform and to talk a little bit about my dad and what it might mean to fathers, but just, all of the family members and men in my life that have given me as much as they could for understanding and giving me the best example of a father. I think I'm just grateful for all of that going into Father's Day, just doing everything that I can to be the best father to my children, and being grateful for those that passed on and gave me that inspiration, that encouragement, their life example, their legacy.
Amen. Just want the fathers out there just to know that we see you. For our audience, for the dads out there, to the fathers out there who feel unseen, and just today we're taking out the time just to say, as we come up to Father's Day, happy Father's Day to you. We celebrate you, we honor you, and we thank you for how, the men have showed up for their families and in our lives, and we celebrate today. So I want you to look into the camera, and from your heart, it's going to be like a personal love letter to your dad. And you're going to start out with Dear Dad. You're going to tell him what you want him to know. And you're going to end with Love, Stephen.
Dear Dad, we love you. We miss you. I know you're shining on us all. I know the girls would love you and would love to play with you. I know that they'll learn more about you soon. We feel your presence. We miss your presence. And we hope to see you again soon. We love you. Love, Stephen.
Love, Stephen. Thank you. That's so beautiful. We'll always like to close out with some meditation. Talking about grief, it can be heavy and it can be beautiful at the same time. I invite you to, let's take a moment, do some deep breathing, settle our souls, end off on gratitudes. We can just also say what we're grateful for. So I invite you to close your eyes and just take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, and gently blow out through your mouth. You can take a deep breath in through your nostrils, hold, and then gently release. And just would like to focus again what we're grateful for. So today, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for this moment of time to share about our dads. I'm grateful for health, safety. I'm grateful for strength. And I'm grateful for you, Stephen. If you'd like to share again, what are you grateful for?
Yes, I'm grateful for family. I'm grateful for healthy children. I'm grateful for everyone in my life. I'm grateful for friends. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for life experiences and the things that I've been through.
Amen. So thank you so much, Stephen, for
No
Stevie, for sharing your heart with us, sharing your dad with the world. It always takes a lot of courage to come and have these conversations, but they're important conversations because people heal in connection. Grief can feel very isolating. It can feel very alone, but the more we have these conversations, the more we can feel more comfortable. We get the elephant out the room, and so we can be able to connect with our shared experiences. So if you are navigating grief right now, feel free to check out my book, My Love Letters to the Grieving. You are not alone. It is a 30-day grief devotional of companionship, guidance, and God's comfort toward healing. I wrote this book in honor of my family. I wrote it in honor of people who are grieving because people need support. Again, it's the most isolating feeling that you can ever experience. But the more we know that we're not alone, it helps us to heal. So, Stephen, what do you want to leave the people with? Where can they find you? Are you on social media?
I'm not really on social media, but if you are looking for food inspiration or if you are trying to figure out how to navigate in the kitchen, you can follow me on Blind Recipes on Instagram. And again, I just want to thank you for inviting me here. I hope everyone out there spends time with their loved ones, and wishing all the fathers a happy Father's Day.
Quickly, you did a cookbook, a family cookbook.
Yep.
Yeah, talk about that real quick.
So again, with losing people, sometimes things like recipes are lost along the way. So I wanted to see what we could do to kind of bring everybody together. But, especially at holidays, it can be difficult. But having a way to, honor the people that have passed that used to make, the best sweet potato or the best macaroni or the best whatever it might be. It's a way to remember those people. But also, if we're apart and we can't be together, everybody now can at least have the guides and the rules to making those dishes so everybody can still feel like they're together and in fellowship. So it was just really nice for everyone to reminisce and to bring their recipes together and to put it all in a book like that. It was nice.
Listen, I had loved that. I had, on behalf of my family, we had submitted Pete's, his fish cakes and his beans, his pot of beans and his chicken and rice. And I think my sister had a potato salad in there. So and I had loved that because I cook, like my husband loves Pete's beans. And before he passed, he'd be like, come over here and get some of these beans. And so he would come get the beans. He'd make it with ham hock. But now I make it. And sometimes I'll make it vegan because I try not to eat the meat. But then I will do the turkey necks and all the different things. It's how we connect. It's how we keep their love alive and their legacy alive. So I love that you did that for the family. And I thank you for allowing us to be a part of that.
And of course, after I gave the book out to everybody, people were like, I have more recipes. I'm like, okay, I guess
we gotta do a part two. We gotta do a part two.
Yep.
There it is.
Look out for the email. Yep.
Okay. So thank you for joining me for UnStuck Worldwide Grief Café. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend, save it, follow, like, and subscribe to UnStuck_Worldwide on all social media platforms. If you want to find out more information about the book or my services or the website, it's www.unstuckworldwide.com. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you, and join us again for our next episode. Thank you. If you're in grief or know someone who is, here is a gentle resource for you to begin your healing journey today with My Love Letters to the Grieving. You are not alone. To learn more, visit www.unstuckworldwide.com.